I've been in business a long time, and in churches, and one of the things that you hear, if we've had some conversations around things like, okay, we got an open position, who we want to fill that with. Should we be looking for a particular person from a diversity standpoint? And the arguments you always get back is, why don't we just look for the best qualified person? Mm-hmm. Let's just put the best qualified person in there. And there's merit in that argument, but the flip side is what you're saying, right? It is, if you're going to, I guess just speak to the thing that diversity brings to the table. In the scenario that I'm laying out, if you put a person of diversity in there, whether it's ethnicity or whatever barrier that we use to divide ourselves, if we put somebody different in there, how might that help us? What does diversity in and of itself bring to the table that helps us?
It just enriches everything. The experiences that they're bringing to the table, whether it is their culture or their economic background, just fill in the blank.
Right.
That's going to enrich the experience, the community. I've learned so much, just from being in a relationship with people different from me. I'll never forget, we started a father-son program in 2015. I think my son was about 7 years old at the time. And so we're in the tree houses at night, and a couple of the Hispanic dads were praying for their boys, before they went to bed. And these guys, my Spanish, it's been a long time since I used it, I have no idea what they were saying, but just the passion. They basically had their sons, head in their hands with tears coming down, just praying blessings over their boys. Mm-hmm. And my 7-year-old was giving me the elbow, and I was like, "Stop, that hurts, get your elbow out of my ribs," and I was like, and I pulled him aside, and I was like, "What is so important? This is a powerful moment, And he was like, "Dad, why don't you ever pray for me like that?" And it was just like, wow, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Son, I'm sorry, I don't know how." It's just that's why I was so captured by it. I'd never even witnessed it. It'd never been modeled for me. Mm-hmm. And just being immersed with people different from me. Mm-hmm. And just what they brought to the table from a spiritual perspective, mm-hmm. It was powerful. Mm-hmm. And that carried all the way through the weekend. As we watched these dads love on their boys, I'd never been on a missions trip to Latin America. I'd never been around people. I just had never experienced it. And so I grew, as a believer, as a father, in that moment. And right. I feel like that's what we're missing. Mm-hmm. It's when we're not intentional about diversifying our teams, whether it's at our company or our church. Mm-hmm. God created the diversity for a reason. Right. He could have made us all look exactly the same. But He created the diversity. He's not asking us to be colorblind. He gave us not only rods, but also cones in our eyes so we could see color.
That's right.
He could have just given us the rods and we could just see the world in black and white and we'd never even know the difference. Mm-hmm. But He created the diversity. So we really have to pursue that because He has something for us in that. And I know that we were designed, to be together in community. Mm-hmm. And I just, we can navigate life and kind of stay in our comfort zone. But I think we're missing a blessing if we do that.
And I think you hit on it right there because, to be a Christian, a true Christ follower, my experience in that is that God rarely calls us to do what's comfortable, right? He's always pushing us to get outside of our comfort zone. And we've said on this podcast before, talking to different people, sometimes our comfort zone is just walking across the street and talking to the neighbor. Getting out of our comfort zone, that would be it for us. But that's what God calls us to do, right? Mm-hmm. It is to embrace different cultures and learn from them and bring all that together. If I have learned one thing in my business days, and I'll say the business days because quite honestly, most of the churches I've been to there's not a whole lot of diversity, right? So I didn't learn it there. But when you're in business or something like that, you don't want everybody to think like you, right? Because if you do, you miss stuff. It's just so beneficial to have people who are coming at something from a totally different viewpoint when you're trying to make a decision or understand something from a business standpoint. because you just have blind spots because you don't know. You haven't been there. You don't have that perspective. And why we miss that on the spiritual front, I'm not sure. But we certainly need to bring that in there